you print out that doc?
No.
No.
I don't know yet. I'm trying to get a hold of him.
I'm trying to get hold of him. Hello, testing. Testing, testing. 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 Testing, testing. 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 Hello, everybody. Good to see you all. We got a couple minutes left. We'll get started here directly. Hello there, everybody. It's awesome to see all you guys here. Much appreciated. So a couple things that we're going to do today. If you hopefully everybody can see my screen good. We're going to talk about your new scan tool, your new Bosch scan tool. We're going to talk about kind of familiarize you guys with it. I mean, I'm sure everybody's used the scan tool in the past or even currently. That's maybe a little bit different than this one. So hopefully I will be able to show you how easy this one is to use, how it can make things better for you, the software and things that are in it, how to go through it, and hopefully the workflow. I can show you the workflow, and you can see that this will be easier to use than maybe anything that you've used in the past. And the information that is in this tool is just outstanding. So we're going to talk about that. I don't know if everyone uses Teams or not, the program that we're using here. But if you look at the top of your screen, if you've not used it, then there's a little microphone at the top of your screen. I have everyone muted at this point, but you can, if you have a question, something you want to add or say, you can anytime just unmute yourself, click that microphone and ask a question, or you can hold your questions to the end. We'll have plenty of time to answer questions then. And then all the way like over to the left of your menu bar there's a little button that says chat. If you have any questions that you just want to add to the program here today, then just click on chat, put your questions in the chat, and then we will certainly answer them at the end of the class. If I see the question come up during the chat, during the class, I'll answer them then. If not, by all means, we'll go over everything at the end. So with all that being said, let's get into the deal. So we said this is going to be go over your new scan tool and kind of familiar you guys with it. This is me. My name's Steve Haney. I'm the technical trainer for Bosch. I won't go into any details about myself, but just that I've been around a long time. I use and own all of the scan tools out there, just about. So I'm familiar with every one of them. At this point, if there's any questions I can help with, I'm happy to talk about those. I know this is a busy looking screen, but this is just a highlight of what we're going to go over today. I want to get to know the tool a little bit for sure. I want to go over the VCI, that's the box that plugs into the car. I want to talk about it, what you can do with it, the functions of that device, and the things you can do with it. Wanted to talk about AutoAuth some. That is the third-party program that is needed to get into many vehicles today. It started with Chrysler and Rams and things, but I have learned that AT&T has a corporate account with AutoAuth, so everyone should have this program. If you don't, or you don't know about it, I'll at least show you where you would, where you can install that information in the tool to make it work for you. So we'll look at that. Connecting the vehicle, ID in the vehicle, those kind of things. Trouble codes, how to get trouble codes, how to go through that data, live data, how we're going to look at that, the information that is at your fingertips. And when I say that is that this tool is meant to be probably your new diagnostic platform, if you want to call it that. You shouldn't need to go anywhere else for any information once you have the tool in your hand. You should be able to sit behind the wheel and get all of the information that you could possibly need when you're working on whatever vehicle you're working on. So I want to go through special tests just to show you that they are there and what's involved with them, what you can do with special tests, and then some other things that is in your tool to help you, get to your diagnostics, get to your information faster. So, and again, I said there'll be plenty of time at the end for questions. So if you want to either, like I said, put them in the chat or hold them till the end, I'll answer any questions that you may have. So moving on. So this is your tool, right? So hopefully, I think you guys have had it for a couple of months now. So hopefully you've been using it a little bit, maybe a little familiar with the tool. The docking station that's in the bottom left corner there, everyone should have one of those. Just so you know the importance or the things that you can do with the docking station. So of course it's meant to put the tool in to charge the batteries, of course. It does have it is a metered charge, so it will only charge like 95% and then trickle charge from then on, so you can leave it in the dock for as long as you need to. It won't ever hurt the battery. It's designed to do that. Sitting right behind that, where the scan tool sits, is a place to put your VCI and to store it. And when you set the VCI there, it does light it up and power it up. And what that's for is when you're doing any updates. Hopefully you've done an update or two at this point. And you would know that the VCI needs to be powered on before you can do any updates. So it does work for that. When when it's sitting in the dock, it powers it up. There is no battery in the VCI. I get asked that question a lot. There's a capacitor in the VCI and what it's for. You'll see when you take it away from power, the lights stay lit for maybe 30 seconds or so. That's really there so if you have it plugged into a car and you, for some reason, kicked it out of the diagnostic connector, or it falls out or something like that, you can pick it up and plug it back in and it would still be powered up, so you wouldn't have to do a rescan. But there is no battery, so I do get asked that a lot. And the right corner, I know it's a simple thing, but that cable that comes with the scan tool has a light at the end of it. There's a little LED. There's a little button at the end of that cable, and it turns on that LED. So if you're underneath the dash looking for the connector, you have a light on it. And then something that's really awesome is at the end of the cable where it plugs into the VCI, there is a voltage reading. So it does read battery voltage. And it serves a couple things. One thing is that you would know if the vehicle, of course, is powered, if your VCI is powered, but you would also know if the battery voltage is dropping too low for you to be able to accurately scan. It will start flashing low voltage, and it knows at what point that vehicle's voltage gets too low for you to be able to scan accurately. Because what happens is, if the voltage gets too low, then the vehicle's designed to start dropping modules off of the system to conserve voltage. So you would maybe be trying to scan, and the system itself would have dropped, shut some modules off that you wouldn't be able to access, and you may not even know it while you're trying to access them. So it'll flash a low voltage reading to you. Talk about the VCI just for a second. Of course, there's what the voltage reading would look like on it. There's 3 lights on the front of it. One of them, of course, is power. So when you plug it into the diagnostic connector, you would see that thing would light up and tell you if you have power or not. What happens if you plug it in and there is no power? Does it light up? Usually that is just telling you that there is something wrong with the power feed at the diagnostic connector, pin 16, and it usually comes down to a blown fuse or, gosh, I've been seeing a lot these days, guys hook lights up to their snow plows, and they somehow fasten it to that wire, and sometimes it'll blow that fuse. So you can do a couple things. You can try to figure out why there's no power there, or if you're in a hurry, you can take the power cord that comes with the scan tool that plugs into that docking station and plug that into the VCI. That'll power the VCI up, and then you can still get through your scan, and maybe you can worry about why you don't have power there later. The next one down, the middle one, is PC connection. That just lights up and tells you that your scan tool or your laptop, depending on what kind of work you're doing there, is connected, and it sees it, and it would light up for that. And then the next one down is another green light to tell you that you're connected to the car, and it should be blinking when you're passing information back and forth from the scan tool to the VCI. That's kind of what that is for. And if you see that it's either not lit up or it's not flashing or something, for some reason you're not communicating with the car. All right, moving on. So I won't spend a lot of time talking about the secure gateway, but it's definitely something that you need for the third-party program, the auto-auth program, to be able to access, Chryslers, Rams, anything, Stellantis, Sprinters, those kind of things. I mean, you definitely need to have that program. There's several other companies out there, OEs, that use what's called a secure gateway, but many of those are incorporated into your tool because of the relationships that Bosch has with a lot of these OEs. It's already incorporated into the tool, so you won't need it for those. This tool will tell you when it's accessing a secure gateway. It'll spin on the screen for a second and tell you that it's going through a secure gateway, and then it'll access it. But without the auto-auth program, you wouldn't be able to get in any Chryslers or any Stellantis vehicles at all. But again, I think your company has a copy of that, and I'll show you where that goes in the tool when we get to that point. So with that, let's go. I'm going to access or share my screen with my tool, and we can look at that. All right, hopefully you can see my screen and see the screen of my scan tool at this point. So this should look familiar if you guys have been lucky enough to play with your tool at this point, then this is exactly what yours would look like. I'll start with the buttons at the top, talking about those. So the buttons at the top are of course the ones that we're going to use the most. They're darker blue for a reason. So they'll be the buttons that we would use to access the vehicle that we're working on first. Before we get into those, I just wanted to show you all the way at the bottom in the middle, it says settings, and there's a little number 1 in that box. So if you haven't seen this yet on your tool, we update our software at least once a month. So it gets updated quite often. And whenever there's an update available, you will see a number 1 in that box right there. So whenever you see that, there's a couple things that you can do at that point. You can I'm just going to tap settings, and it takes me to the settings screen, and we'll talk about some of the things that are in here. But first, I haven't updated my tool yet on purpose, just so you can see what it looks like. So I would tap the software update button, right? I'll show you that what just popped up on my screen. That's what will pop up on your screen when you haven't done an update, right? So software update, and then now it takes me to the screen where I can see what updates available. So it'll tell me that it's going to download the software, which you can download the software at any time. It doesn't hurt the tool while you're using it to be downloading the software. I wouldn't recommend trying to install the software while you're using the tool, only because it makes it real slow. It can be done, but it makes it slow. But here it tells me that there's a software update available, and I can do a couple things. I can set the tool in the docking station and tell it to install the update, and it usually takes a half hour, something like that. This last update took quite a while because it was a really big update. But it usually takes about a half hour to do the update. Or I can, so if I put it in the docking station and I was going home, you can tell it to install the update, and it'll just install the update while you're gone. Or one of the blue boxes there all the way to the right, I'm going to tap on schedule update. Now I can schedule my update, and I can tell it to do my updates whenever I want it to do. So maybe I could tell it to do my updates whenever I need one at 12 o'clock, a.m. at night when I'm gone, not using the tool, and it's just sitting there. And it'll do the updates then, and I don't have to do anything. All right, so kind of that's your choice how you like to play it. I always like to go into the software update and just look at it and just see what the update is and how big it is, and look at that kind of stuff. But you can set it to do it on its own. So looking at settings, you need to know some of what's in settings. Application settings at the top. Right now I have mine set on demo mode, so we can use it today, right? So you wouldn't usually have yours in demo mode. Units of measure makes sense, standard or metric. Use TPMS tool. So use TPMS tool is if you're doing any type of TPMS work or diagnostics and a tool is required to reset the TPMS sensors, then it will ask you during your diagnostics if you want to use the tool or not to do whatever that function may be. I tell mine to ask me during the test so I can decide if I want to use a tool or not. You can tell it always. If you have it set to always, it'll always ask you if you want to use the tool or not. I find that to be annoying, so I don't use it. I just want it to ask me during a test. Or you can set it to never, whichever you like. The data stream scroll options, next one down, that just means really if you like to use an Apple phone or an Android phone. So that means you can swipe your information up and down or left and right. So it's whichever you like. And then that last one there is topology. And I'll show you what that looks like when we get to that point, so you'll know what that means. So back over to the left, software information. Software information just tells you what your update is and has been done, and your serial numbers of your VCI and your scan tool itself, your tablet. Of course, software update. We saw ADS tool list. You guys don't have that yet, so we'll go past that one. And the next one down is manage VCI. You probably won't ever have to go to manage VCI. Sometimes if there's a connection issue or if there's something going on, or if you called any of our tech support guys, they may want to go in there and maybe reload firmware in the VCI or something like that. There's reasons why they may want to go there. You should really never have to go there, but that's what's in there. So you can directly connect to the VCI. Subscriptions is the next one. That just tells you when your subscription runs out of your tool. You see at the top there, it just tells me that mine runs out in March of 27. User details is the next one down. I'm not going to click that one because it takes it a second to find the user information. It goes out to our server and does some spinning around, and what it's telling you is just who this tool is registered to. And then contact us. That is our tech support line. That's a direct line for you guys to get to our tech support group, which are there all day. There's several of those guys there, so if there's ever any issues, that's what they're there for, is a call. Language, if you have any reason to change the language in the tool, you can pop in and out. Lots of guys that are Spanish speaking find it easier to use it in Spanish than in English, so you can change that. And then here's where I said that auto auth, that third-party secure gateway access. If you haven't done it already, this is where you would put the username and password that you guys would already have. You would just need to get that and put it in here. And then if you have it in this part of the tool, then when you're accessing one of those vehicles, it won't ask you for the username and password. Then it'll just kind of automatically go through the program. It'll still tell you it's accessing a secure gateway, but it won't ask you for the username and password. Direct hit is Identifix. I don't think you guys have that, but that is a direct link to that. And then service, again, that's not somewhere that you would probably ever need to go, but that is where maybe one of the service guys would go to reset communications or reset some of the screens or do some of those kind of things if there was ever a need to. And then report options is the last one. And your tool does generate many reports. So if there's any reports that maybe your management might want to see, you can turn many things on or off. And the more things you turn on, or the more things that will be generated on that report. So it's always up to you guys, or maybe your management, how to do it. I will show you how easy it is to send a report. It's a simple thing to just take any of the reports that are generated and send them through an email, and we'll talk about that. So that's everything under settings. I'm going to go down to the bottom middle of the screen and hit the circle, hit the little dot. It takes me back to the home screen. So at this point, we will look at the blue boxes at the top. There's the very top there. It says Rapid DT Scan and Diagnostics. So the Rapid DT Scan is exactly what it says. It does a TT trouble code scan, and it does it quickly. So because you don't have to go through some of the steps that I'm going to show you. I'm going to tap on Diagnostics just because I don't want to miss any of those steps. But the Rapid Scan works great, and it is faster. But these are the steps that it misses. So I'm going to tell it auto ID. Or if I wanted a manual selection, maybe I'm working on something that's pre-95, then I might have to go in here and manually select it. Or if I'm looking for information all the way back to 76, we definitely have it. All right, so Diagnostics, I'm going to tell it to auto ID, and this is exactly what it would do, and about the same speed. I'm going to pick on LTZ, Chevy truck. So then it's going to open up my screen. So it's kind of doing an initial scan at this point just to see what I'm connected to and to make sure that my connection is good and everything is accurate. And now the screen looks a little bit different. So now it's still the buttons that I'm going to use the most are the two at the top, the ones that are highlighted darker blue. I'm going to click on Read DTCs. Right? And I think right from this point on, I think that you will see kind of a flow in how the software flows. I think we do a great job at trying to help a technician using the tool stay focused on the job that they are doing at that time. I think you'll see what I mean is evident through all of the software on trying to help stay focused on, like I said, on whatever the job is at hand. So there's things that I can do right at this screen. If I've already done some repairs, and I know my repairs are in the transmission, and I just want to rescan the transmission again, then I can just tap that particular module and put a check mark in it, and now I can hit continue in the bottom corner, and I'm only going to scan for trouble codes and for information out of that particular module, whichever one that I tap, whatever one it might be, or as many as I want. I don't need to do a complete scan, but I always recommend my initial first scan, I would go to the top and hit select all, and then just do a complete scan. And tap continue. So now it's looking at all of the controllers, and it's going to compile a list for me of all the controllers that it found in this system. So now this is my topology view. If you look in the top right corner, there, it says stop scan. Right underneath that, it says topology view. This is that setting that was in the bottom line in the settings menu that I could change as a default. So if I tap off of topology view, it just changes my view, right? It's still scanning and still giving me the same information. I like the topology view because I like to look at how the modules are laid out in the CAN network. It lets me look at all of them in succession, and then I can look at the trouble codes that are in each module. So hopefully when you guys are hooked up to a vehicle, you don't see this many codes in each of the modules, or that's a mess. But this is the demo program in the tool to give us something to look at, right? So, so this is my view. This is the CAN network, and this is how the modules are laid out in that network in succession from one after another. So I'm just going to go to the top line all the way to the left. I'm just going to tap on engine. Now it opens the menu on the side, and now it tells me if I can see there my trouble code. I can see current codes. I can see history codes. If there's any pending codes, then there would be a little blue box there that would say pending codes as well. So, so I know what these codes are. I'm going to tap on the word details. Right? When I tap on details, again, I think you'll see the flow, the design flow of the software at this point. It started back when we were scanning for codes, but I think you'll see how this flow works and why I like it so much. So now I clicked on a PO300, which is a misfire, right? And if you look at the top left corner, that trouble code is listed there. And now, from this point on, all of the information that I'm going to look at for this trouble code is going to be what's on my screen. The screen we're on right now is what I call the work screen, right? So all of the work that I'm going to do for this particular trouble code, I can do from this screen. And also, keep in mind that you're sitting behind the wheel, right? You haven't had to leave the car yet. And hopefully I can show you that you don't have to leave the car to get any of the information that you're after. So again, trying to keep me focused. I'm working on this particular trouble code. If I look at, I'm going to start with the box that's on the left. And my demo program doesn't do a super job at highlighting all of the lines in this box, but we're going to talk about them, just so you know what is here and how important they all are. So code criteria is my first one. Code criteria is, and all this information comes from the OE, and it comes from Identifix, and it is 100% accurate information. And code criteria is everything that it takes for this trouble code to be able to set itself in the vehicle, whatever vehicle I'm working on. So all of these things have to be enabled before I would be able to set a trouble code, set this particular trouble code. So you can always look through it and just, for me, I think sometimes it's more of a training thing for me, so I know exactly what it takes to set a particular trouble code, whichever one it might be. It's great information there. The next one down is Code Assist. If I tap on Code Assist, now this is information that and this comes from their information, and these are the most reported fixes, starting at the tops with the most prevalent fixes all the way down. I'm just going to scroll down to the least prevalent fixes for this particular trouble code and now we're very specific for this year, make, and model in this engine. It's very specific to that year, make, and model. So this is what they have found that they fix the most when they have this trouble code. And if anybody knows an older 5.3 LS motor, thinking that it might need lifters or a cam is not out of the question. But you can look at the things that they found that they fixed the most. Some of them I really like, and keep this in mind for later on, some of the things I'll show you. But like here, they found a bad ground at G102. So just keep that in mind for later. We'll talk about that. The next one down is PCM pin. So why is that important? So look at how it lays out. So probably this year make and model truck had a 80 pin PCM, but remember that it's keeping us focused on the trouble code that we're working on. So it's only showing me the pins in the PCM that could have anything to do with this trouble code. So any testing that I might want to do, it's going to show me the pins in the PCM that have to do any relevancy to this trouble code. Right? And then if I tap it again, it even gives me a little bit more. It tells me the color of the wire and actually a description of that circuit. So just remember that it's only for this trouble code. All right. So the next one down. I'm sorry that it's not highlighted for us, but it says location. Hopefully you can see it. Location would be if there was a device or some component that some of my testing might be sending me to. It would be the same as a component locator that maybe you've seen in some of the repair information. If there's a device that is specific for the trouble code that I'm working on, it would show me that location. The next one there is scan test, and that would be just to rerun the scan. The next one down is diagram. So diagram is an outstanding spot there as far as help goes, because it would be a diagram for whatever the component is that I'm working on. If I was working on a throttle position sensor or something like that, it would be a wiring diagram just for that component. So it wouldn't be a complete wiring diagram of everything under the hood. It would be only for that specific component. And it may run from the headlight to the tail light. It's hard to tell, but it would only be the wiring and the pin locations and that kind of thing for that particular component. The next one is waveform, and the waveform would be if there was a known good waveform that went along with the component that I'm trying to test, that would be a waveform for that, and I will show you where you can access the waveforms later on as we go through some of the data. I'll show you what some of them look like. TSB, when I do diagnostic training, not scan tool training, but diagnostic training, there's three things that I always say that we need to do. We need to do a complete scan. We need to look at freeze frame data. I'll show you where freeze frame data is. We always need to look at freeze frame data, and then the very next thing we need to do is look at service bulletins. Because there may be a fix out there for whatever my problem is, and I don't even have to diagnose it. Someone else already did and found a fix for it. Where TSBs are important on this screen right here is that if there was a TSB that went along with this year, make, and model, this engine, and was specific for this particular trouble code, there would be a TSB listed there. And that is outstanding if you think about it. If they've already done the work to put them any TSB that might have any relevance to this trouble code on this screen for you to access right away. And then the next one is connector, and I always like the connector view too, because it gives me two views of the connector. Okay, I can see the connector, the back of it as it's plugged into the component. So if I was back probing it, something like that, I was doing some testing, or it also gives me a view of it unplugged, and I was looking straight on into it, whether I was maybe using a meter, just seeing if there was voltage or something there. So it gives me two views of that connector. So that's that menu on the side right there. Okay, so let's move over to the right side. And at the top of the screen, you have, it says motor true speed repair. That is your repair information, your repair manuals online that are in the tool that you're using. So again, all of the information that you will want to get your hands on is in the tool already. So I have this trouble code. Now I'm just going to tap on motor true speed repair. All right, now it's going to open up that menu for me. And you see it wants to know if it's four-wheel drive, and I'll say it's four-wheel drive. Okay, so now it opens up my repair information. Now I'm going to show you true speed repair a couple different ways, right? So right now, I mean, the information that is in true speed repair is outstanding. I think you'll love it if you have not played with it already. But right at this point, if you look at where it says motor true speed there, the blue line, right underneath that it says PO300 in the search bar. It has searched for that trouble code, and it's giving me all of the information that has to do with this particular trouble code. So right now we're only looking at data that has to do with this trouble code. If I wanted wiring diagrams for or ABS information or transmission information, I'm not going to get that from this screen because right now we're still focused on the trouble code that initially that we were working on, right? So if I look down just below the search bar, it gives me some of that information that's listed there. I mean, there's 3 procedures that could have something to do with this trouble code. There's no wiring diagrams for it. Service bulletins, it still says that there's 16 service bulletins that might have some relevance to this trouble code. So, and all of these are factory TSPs. So when I just tap on one, you can see that it looks just like a factory TSP. All right, so when you look at it, if you've had any access to any factory service bulletin type information, you can see that it is exactly what they look at. So we take that information, we don't do anything to it, we don't doctor it up, we take their information word for word and put it right into the program. So when you access it, you're seeing the same information that they do. All right. So all of your service bulletins would be there that had any relevance to this trouble code. I will show you where to access more, but right now we're only working on this trouble code. So what procedures might there be that could have anything to do with this trouble code? So whenever you have a PO300 code or really any misfire, several times you need to do some relearns, crank or can relearn, or maybe an idle relearn. A lot of them can't relearn it themselves. So here it's just going to tell me what that relearn is, tell me about it, tell me how to do it. I will show you in the tool where to access all of these. Right now we're just looking at the information telling us why we need to do it and how. Throttle relearn, there's everything that we might need to know about the throttle relearn. Okay, so all that information is there. So that's what would be under the procedures. Trouble codes, there's all of the trouble codes that could be listed for that particular misfire. But if I want to know, information on next steps, troubleshooting type information, I can just tap on that trouble code. It gives me all the information that I might need for that. And then anytime you see anything in blue, just like using your regular PC, that is just telling me that there's other information for me to look at. That's a hyperlink to take me somewhere else. So if I just tap on this top one, and it's just going to give me connector views. Everything I need to know about the connector, the view, looking at it, that type of thing. Several times in this software, I will show you a couple things that what I say all the time is how cool something is. But I will show you the things that I think are cool. So I'm looking at this connector view. And it actually gives me, if you just look at it on the screen there, it says connector part information. It actually tells me what it is and gives me the part number for it, which is out of sight. I don't know if you've ever looked for part numbers for silly things like that, but it is crazy. Some of the trouble you got to go through to find that information for it to just be in the program that's in your scan tool. It's really nuts. Other diagnostics, what might that be? Other information that may go along with trying to diagnose that trouble code, fuel injector balance test. What's involved. Your tool does all these tests, but here it's explaining to you why you might need to do it, more information about it. So just know that all that information is there, specifications, maintenance schedules. There's even a time labor guide in here, you guys, that may not be important to you guys, but it's always here too. But all of this information is in your hands while you're trying to diagnose this trouble code, and to think that you're still sitting behind the wheel, right? So I'm going to hit the back arrow and just go back to the main screen, and we're going to go back into true speed a little bit later because I want to show you more about that. The next one down is color wiring diagram. So if you haven't looked at this yet, or you've looked at either Mitchell or All Data or a lot of OEs. The company that makes these diagrams is a company called Valley Forge. Valley Forge is a company that Bosch owns, and we make these diagrams for Mitchell and for All Data, and for a lot of the OEs as well. So these are just color diagrams. Let me look for one that's kind of busy. There's a lot on the screen. There's one. So all I'm doing right now is just pinching the screen. But the things, again, the things that I think are cool are, and so you know that this is the kind of work that I've always done. I've been like a drivability technician and trainer for many years. So if half the time when I'm working on a car, I'm digging wires out of it or looking for components or shorts or something like that. So I love that it tells me on the diagram where all the components are, and I like that. Like this one right here, I can tell exactly what that component is and what goes on inside it. So if it's a relay, I can see how it's switched, that kind of stuff. I can see where voltage comes in, where voltage goes out. Some of the things that I love the most, and there's always something that gets somebody going, but me being the kind of tech that I've always been, I love that it tells me where the grounds are located. All right, so if you've ever done wiring work and didn't know where the grounds were, any training I ever do or any work that I ever do, I'm usually looking for the grounds first, just so I can load the grounds and make sure that whatever problem I'm having is not a ground problem. So if I don't know where the ground is, in the old days we used to have to rip the harness apart and follow the wire all over the place until we got to the ground. Right here it actually tells me where all the grounds are, and I picked one that doesn't have a splice in it. If there was a splice in it where a couple wires go together, it will actually tell me where the splice is located as well. Which is like, there's one right there. And it's just crazy to think about my life, where how long I've looked for a splice to actually have a wiring diagram tell me where it's at, so I could at least cut my time in half trying to find the splices. So that is awesome information. And of course, all of your diagrams are here, all the wiring diagrams, whatever circuit you're looking at, you know, they're all here, and where they go into the PCM, that kind of thing. So all of your wiring diagrams and things are here, and they're all at your fingertips. Right, so I'm just hitting the back arrow, I just go back. Right, so the next one down is Identifix. Like I said, that's a repair information program. You guys don't have that, but Bosch does take Google. I always say that there's two types of techs, right? The ones that will admit that they use Google and the ones that won't. I don't know where we would be without Google, or where I would be. I can't believe I used to fix cars and didn't have Google to help me do it. But if I just tap Google, it just automatically opens up exactly what I would Google if I was using my phone, except here it's just a shortcut and I can do it right through the tool, and it gives me everything that there is to have to do with that year, make, and model, and that trouble code that Google can find. Right? Nothing that's you know, earth-shattering here, except that it's just a shortcut link for me to be able to go to right while I'm using my tool. I don't have to get anything else. And then if you had Mitchell or All Data, there's also the obvious hot links there to get into either one of those. So hopefully you can see, I think that why I call this the work screen. So all the work that I'm doing, I can do right from the screen. So if I look at the top of my screen there, and there's three darker blue buttons there too. One of them says Scan Results, Data Stream, and Special Test. I'm going to go through those. The first one I'll show you is Scan Results. So let's say I'm looking for information on that P0300 code. I'm happy with my plan, with my diagnostics that I've come up with so far, and I want to go to another trouble code. So I can just tap Scan Results. Now it just takes me back to my main screen again where we've done that scan, and now I can pick another code. So I'm going to pick on this evap code. I hit Details, and now you can see that now all of my information is going to be geared for working on this P0449, this evap solenoid code. So all the information I'm going to look at from here on out is going to be related to this trouble code, just like that misfire code we were working on. So nothing's different, except that the information now is geared just for this code. So instead of giving me a long list of all the trouble codes that it came up with, and then I can pick through the trouble code that I want to look at on one screen, which is what most of my other tools, tools do. Here I can look at this trouble code, and now my information is going to be only relevant to that trouble code. I personally like that myself. Helps keep me focused, and I need all the help being focused I can get. So the middle button at the top is data stream. So now if I click on data stream, now we don't do anything magic here either. I mean, everybody that has a scan tool needs to be able to look at the live data, right? Just like scan results. I mean, everyone needs to be able to scan. I think we do it different. Again, holding with this theme of trying to help keep you focused. If I hit on data stream, right? So now it's going to open up the data stream, and it's going to be the data that is relevant to that trouble code. So now this is the data that it's giving me the ability to look at. Over to the left is where I kind of talk about it like looking at the top of a funnel, and I'm trying to get down to the small hole right at the bottom of my funnel. Like here, so this is a misfire. I can go scroll down. I can see that there's a button for me that I can click on misfire data. So now when I click on misfire data, I go over to the middle of the screen and I hit select. Now it's only going to give me the PIDs that have to do, it's going to give me the data PIDs that have to do with that particular trouble code, whichever that code may be. So now I can look at the PIDs that it's given me, and these are the ones that are relevant to that trouble code, right? So that is awesome, right? That it's trying to keep me focused. I always talk about a Ford, or here lately anyway, I talk about a Ford that I was on. It was a 24 Ford F-250 that had a diesel in it, and had a power stroke in it, and it had 476 lines of data. So it had 476 PIDs that I could choose from when I wanted to look at data. And most of the other scan tools out there will give you all of that data, but now I have to select the data that I want to see, that I want to display on my screen. I think we do a pretty good job at still trying to keep you focused on the job that is at hand for you, the PIDs that you're trying to look at. We try to keep you focused on those PIDs, right, on information for that trouble code. So this is also this screen right here, but I can go further. If you look at the top of the screen, there's, again, darker blue buttons. The one all the way to the left says expand. I can tap that, or I can just pinch the screen, right? So for me, I'm just pinching the screen, and I'm going to blow it up. That blows it up to where I can see the data different, right? Or I'm going to shrink it back down. And over to the right, there's a button there that says filter data. So I can take this a step further. I'm going to tap on filter data, and now I can still put, because I'm a drivability tech, right? So I can still put the data on the screen that I want to see. So with a misfire, it's relevant what temperature the engine is. I might want to look at the cam sensor, mass airflow. I'm going to look at misfire history. I might even want to look at spark. Now I'm going to hit continue. So now it breaks my menu down even further. So now, and to disregard the numbers jumping all over the place, that's just the demo working. Hopefully when you're looking at one, your numbers aren't going crazy like that. That'd be a mess. But now I'm looking at data the way I want to see it, right? So I don't need any scan tool telling me how to look at data. I'm going to look at it the way I want to see it. So as cool as that is, I can still take it a step further. I'm going to pinch the screen, or you can hit that expand button. I'm going to pinch the screen, and it blows it up for me bigger, right? So now I can look at it different. So now when I'm looking at this screen, each one of these little boxes has 3 little lines in the top right corner. Now I can tap on that, because this one's engine cold, so I can tap on that one, and I would probably want to see that digital, right? Crank sensor, I might want to look at that one in a code like that, but if I'm going to look at misfire history, that can be digital. I can set them all digital. Spark is a degree. Remember, I'm looking at the degrees of spark. So I would want to look at that with digital. Mass airflow, I might want to look at it as a graph. This one I'll look at digital. Misfire history, look at all of them digital. So now you can see that I can set this thing up to look exactly how I want it to look. And then this is the waveforms that I was talking about. So if there's a waveform to be seen, this would be where I would look at it. So I can look at it this way. If I pinch it again, I can make it even bigger. I can put some of those signals on my screen, and I can look at them even bigger. Right? So I'm just going to pinch it again to make it smaller. Right. So as cool as that is, there's one more thing I can do. In fact, there's a couple more things I can do on this screen right now that we're at. So if you look at the bottom of the screen, all the way to the left, there's a little red dot. This tool is also a flight recorder. So what a flight recorder is, for example, you take a vehicle out for a ride. Somebody tells you that when they're going, 50 miles an hour, they feel it miss or jerk, or it does, whatever that it is it might do. You can't recreate it in the shop, so you need to take it out on the road. So you take it out for a ride. When you feel it do whatever it is that it does, while I'm driving it, what I'm going to do right now is tap this red dot. You see it looks a little different. So I tapped it, and now what it's doing is it's recording everything that it sees. So it recorded 75 frames of information before I tapped that button. So whatever happened, whatever the vehicle did, and I tapped the little red dot, I've captured whatever happened because it was 75 frames of information. So I caught it. It'll record for a really long time. You don't need to record that long. A few seconds is plenty, I would think, because whatever you felt it do, you already captured it. So now I'm going to tap this button again, and it stops. And then if you look up at the top of the screen, it might be hard for you to see. Hopefully you can see it. But at the top of the screen, there's a button here that says playback in the dark blue, and there's a little red circle there, and it went up to 28. So what that means is that it now saved my recording. So you can do a couple things. If you got somebody riding with you, they can look at it, or if you're by yourself, you can pull over. I can tap this playback button, right? So now the top one there is what I just recorded. So when I tap that, here's my recording. So I can look at this recording however I want to. I'm going to pinch it again, make it bigger, and then I can change these numbers again. I can change them however I might want to see them. Right? I won't need to change them all, but you get the point. I can change them however I might want to look at them. I can have as many there for me to look at. So you see across the bottom, that blue line is moving across from left to right, and it's like a lighter blue dot. So what I'm going to do is put my finger on that blue dot, and I've stopped it from changing. But now what I can do is I'm moving my finger to the left. I can go all the way back to when I first tapped that button, tap the button, because this is where whatever happened is where I felt it. So now I'm dragging my finger nice and slow, and I can look for whatever might have changed, whatever might have dropped out, whatever went to ground, went to power, went to zero, whatever I might be looking for, I can look for it there, or I can go as fast as I want. I'm dragging it fast. I can do whatever I want to do to be able to see that data. Right? So I love being able to do that and look at data however I want to. And then lastly, if I want to do a screen capture, maybe this is a picture that I want to save. I can save that, and then I can look at it later. Maybe I'm doing this several times to try to figure out exactly what's wrong with this vehicle. I can save pictures, and I can go back and look at the pictures later to try to help me decide what my repair should be. All right? So that's everything that we can do on that screen. All right? But I'm not done yet with this information. So being a drivability tech that I am, and that you guys are as well these days, I know other things that I want to see. So if I have a misfire, I always go look at fuel trim data. So instead of trying to pick all this data to get on the screen what I might want to see, I can tap on fuel trim data, and it's going to give me all of the information that is relevant to looking at fuel trims. So now I can filter this however I want. I want to hit filter data again. It's always important to look at coolant temp. I can look at my fuel trims. I can look at O2 sensors on the screen. What else might I want to look at? Probably enough for me right now to just try to decide if the vehicle is trying to fix itself. So now I can look at just the data that I want to see. I can see how my O2 sensors are working. I can see what fuel trim is doing. These numbers are nuts, but if I could see if fuel trim were trying to come back down to zero, if I fixed the vehicle, if it's trying to correct itself, if it thinks it needs more fuel or not, whatever it might need, I'm able to look at that and decide myself exactly what I'm going to look at. Transmission data. So you get the idea. I can look at any data there that could have any relevance to that trouble code that I can. I can look at it however I want to. Now I can go back to my work screen again. So now I'm going to go to special tests. And special tests are, the correct term is bidirectional information, is the industry term, but it's anything that you might want to turn on or off. It's anything that you might need to relearn, recalculate, reprogram. Any of that kind of information would be under special tests. But when I go from here, it's going to be the special tests that have to do with anything, any relevance to that trouble code, right? So we're still staying focused on that trouble code. And if you look at the tests that it's put here for me, these are the tests that I might want to use to help me get through that repair of that trouble code. I have other information I can look at, but it's put on my screen what I might need to look at as far as that trouble code goes. There's lots of other things here that are available, idle relearns and oil light resets and things. But initially, when it popped that screen open, it was giving me the information that I might want to look at as far as going after that trouble code. So that at this point, that's everything that I can do from my work screen. All right. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to hit the button in the middle and go back to the main screen again. And then the next button over is data stream. So now if I tap on data stream, now I can look at the data of any of these modules that I might want to look at, but it's going to give me all of the data, right? So if I tap on, let's say transmission and hit continue, now it's going to give me the data that only has to do with that particular module. I'm not looking at all of this data lined up on the screen and making me pick through the data that I might want to see. And some of the tools even put their data there alphabetically, so I might have to scroll through a big long list. Here I only want to look at solenoid data, or I just want to look at transmission data altogether. Hit select. Now, only the data that's on the screen has to do with the transmission. And this is the data the exact same way. If I knew what I wanted to look at, I can filter my data and look at the data that I think I want to see. Engine torque would be important. Gear ratio, what gears it in. So you can pick the data that you want to see. And again, I can contour the tool to be able to show me the data that I want to see. Which I really like. All right, so I'm going to go back, hit the back button, hit the home button, and go back. So that's how data stream would work. So now we need to go down below that, those buttons there, and now we're into the lighter blue button. So there's special test shortcuts in the middle, and then all special tests. So special test shortcuts is exactly what it sounds like. They're shortcuts, but they're shortcuts to the tests that you would be doing more often, right? So battery and charging would be exactly what it sounds like. If I'm replacing a battery, trying to diagnose a charge problem, something like that, this is where I would go as a shortcut to get to that information. A lot of vehicles today, you need to tell a vehicle that you're replacing the battery. This is where I would do that. Brake service, depending on the vehicle, there's lots of things that would be under brake service. A lot of them are going to have information there to help you bleed the brakes, diagnose the brakes, that kind of thing. If you were working on a vehicle that had, rear disc brakes and it had electric emergency brake, then releasing the emergency brake and things would be here to release the brakes and then to put, engage the brakes again so you can replace them, that kind of thing. That information would be there. Of course, service light reset, just a shortcut to turn the service lights off. And then service suspension is here. If you were working on something that had electronic suspension, electronic steering, steering angle resets, those kind of things, anything that would be suspension service would be here. And then, of course, TPMS registration, obviously what that would be for. Right. I'm going to go back. And then all special tests is the broad menu of all of the special tests that would be available. So, if I pick on any one of them, body control module, and then hit continue, then any special tests that are out there that fall into that module, anything that module does itself, whether things it turns on or off, or like this top one here, if I'm replacing the body control module, then this is where I would actually replace it with a new module. But the things that module controls, windows, door locks, lights, fog lamps, any of those systems that I want to turn on or off, accessory relays, horn, crank relay, wiper relays, all those things, anything that goes through that particular module that I selected, these are the shortcuts to be able to get to those functions. So door tests, I want to unlock and lock doors and things. Like I said, the VCM setup. So any of those functions that I want to do to that particular module is where I do it at. So if I clicked on transmission several times, all the transmission resets and adaptation resets are there. If I want to shift solenoids, want to do any of those kind of things, all of those functions are there, depending on the vehicle that you're working on. Right? So that is special tests. All right. So then the next button underneath that is diagnostic information, and there is tons of information under diagnostic information. So if I tap on that one, true speed repair, I can access that from here. Wiring diagrams, we looked at wiring diagrams already. Video tutorials is there. There's several videos on using the tool and getting through that software that's within the tool. Direct hit is that Identifix connection. Battery disconnect, so anything that would have to do with replacing the battery, just like in that shortcut menu, there's help here to go through the diagnostic or the battery disconnect, like you're replacing the battery. Symptom Assist is what I like to go to the most. Symptom Assist is factory information and information that comes from Identifix that is for symptoms, and that showed that there was 135 symptoms here, and those symptoms would be symptoms that a vehicle may have that are not trouble code related. So normally we hook up a scan tool, we look for trouble codes, and if there's no trouble codes, now what do we do? Here are all of the symptoms that they found at the factory that they've had to fix with this year, make, and model, and that engine for this vehicle, right? So, engine stalling, if I tap on engine stalling, what did they find that they fixed the most? And just remember that it's still specific to this year, make, and model and that engine configuration in this vehicle. This is what they found that they did the most for that problem, right? And you can look through there, and it's not there to be the end-all fix, but it definitely can give you some guidance, right? And look at how big the list is. There's a ton of things here. Brake performance problem. What might that be? This is what they found that they fixed the most if somebody's brakes weren't working the way they should, or remote start problem. What did they do the most? And it's crazy when you look at some of the things that stop a remote start from working, but all of these things really do stop them from working. Sunroof. So just look at that list and just know that this information is in your tool, and it's very specific to the vehicle that you're working on. So, transmission noise and vibration. It just might give you some. I could tell you many stories of issues that I found that this helped me fix. We don't have time for them, but I wish we did. Brake hard pedal. What did they find that they fixed for that problem? I love how it tells me that they actually had to repair ground. Remember when we were looking at a wiring diagram and it actually showed us where those grounds were located? I could go to the braking wiring diagram and find that ground and go right to that ground and see if it's a problem or not. So tons of awesome information right there. Key programming, I get asked a lot about programming keys. You can program many keys. You can't program all of the keys with the scan tool. You can program all of the keys with your VCI that you have plugged into the car, because that is a validated J2534 flashing device with all of the OE. So you could use that tool, that device, and a laptop, and you could do anything that you choose to do. Usually the scan tool cannot program a key fob, a key or a key fob, if that key fob has a red panic button on it. And that means that there's other securities in play there. That means that it probably has a patch system in that car, and You cannot program that with the scan tool. The OE wants to know that you're programming the keys in that vehicle. That's why you have to use a laptop to do it. Or if they didn't do it that way, then anybody that has a scan tool could go around programming any key they want to and steal as many cars as they want. So, so you definitely need to program it that way. But if I tap on program keys or key programming here, then it would tell me whatever I need to do to that particular vehicle to program the key. And then oil light resets. Right now we're in transmission. If I here to the left, I'm going to select controller, tap on select controller, and then if I select on brake, if I find it, I have to do it, find it first, brake control, and then hit continue. Now when it lights up, it will light up different boxes for me. So you see now when it lights them up, now the brake lead procedure is lit up for me, so I can tap that one. And then ones that aren't lit up are transpan ID, like we're not in transmission anymore, so that one's not lit up. So now that's how I can change the information I'm looking at here. My favorite button on the whole screen, Symptom Assist is awesome, the information in there is great. I love the tune-up spec button that's at the bottom of the screen. If I click on tune-up spec, the information, not that this information can't be found somewhere else, because it certainly can, but it sure is a shortcut to get to it. If I'm trying to diagnose this misfire and I want to just see if my injectors are good, it actually gives me the ohm reading if I was using a multimeter on the injector to see what that spec should be. Generator, what kind of alternator it should have on it. Spark plugs, what kind of plugs it should have on it. Idle speed, it'll always tell you to go look at manufacturer's information. But what about fuel pressure? I just need to know what the fuel pressure spec should be, right? I just need that real fast. What's an acceptable factory spec for compression? Firing order, I love, is there, and it even tells me the battery size. So the battery size and the group of the battery. And why is that important? So if I'm working on a vehicle that's probably 16 or 17 or newer, and I just put a battery in it that I had because it fit, I could cause myself trouble if I don't put the right cold cranking amp battery in the vehicle, because it actually knows what should be in there and it will try to charge the battery accordingly. So you could smoke a battery if I put the wrong one in there. If it was either under this amp, CCA, or if it was over it, it would undercharge the battery. So it really needs to be the right battery in the car, especially, like I said, 16 or 17 or newer. So that's the information that is under that button. We'll go back to the main screen again. Going over from left to right, we looked at wiring diagrams already. Enhanced OBD2, I'll show you that real quick, because I said I would show you where freeze frame data was. Freeze frame data always lives in the enhanced OBD2 menu, because that is the freeze frame data is a function of OBD2. And this menu opens up, and freeze frame data is always mode 2. For me, for this demo, there's nothing in freeze frame data. But if there was a trouble code that I was working on, if I was working on that misfire, freeze frame data would tell me, because it freezes the data the very second that trouble code was set. So that's important data. That's why I always say look at that data second, because whatever was going on, it's got a miss in it. What was going on in this vehicle for, excuse me, for it to see that miss? Was it 80% load, 4,000 RPMs in second gear? Was somebody, trying to pass the vehicle and they stumped the pedal on the floor? I mean, that's something you need to know if you're trying to recreate where this trouble code came from. That's what freeze frame data is for. Also, always remember that freeze frame data will go away if you clear the trouble code. So if you look at your trouble codes and then you cleared them, I never like to clear my trouble codes. And really, I don't like to clear them at all. Actually, if today's vehicles, if you've diagnosed it and you fixed it correctly, it should put the trouble codes should clear them themselves, and the light should go out on its own. I like to fix the vehicle and then take it for a ride and see if it puts the lights out itself. That way, I know it fixed it. But if you cleared them, cleared the trouble codes on the trouble code screen, then it will clear freeze frame data too. So just remember that. And then I don't know. I think you guys are from all over the place. For me, I'm in Delaware. anyone that is an emission state and where they use the diagnostic connector, the readiness mode for emissions, this is where I could go see if my ready status. This is the same thing that their scan tools look at when they're looking for that. So if you had that trouble code set, there's definitely going to be some monitors that are not ready, and you can see them here in the middle. It says not ready. If it's one that's not supported, then you don't have to worry about that because it's not being looked at. But if it says not ready, then that means that's a monitor that's not run. So there's some things that you can do. You can try to run the drive cycles because they are. It will tell you what to do within the tool, how to run those cycles. And this is where you would drive the vehicle. And if it actually sets them to ready, then you know you did your repair correctly. But this is where I would look at that information to see where my readiness status is, depending on what state you're in. All right. So go back to here. Saved reports is that I'm going over to the left. Saved reports, I said I would show you that. And almost any screen that you're on, at the top of that screen, if you look at the very top here, there's a button that says share, or any of these reports. So if you set your tool up to have its own email address, and usually I tell everyone to do that. I mean, when I set one of these tools up, I'll go into the Android settings and give the tool its own email address, which is very easy to do. If there's any reports that you may want to email out of here, I like for it to have its own email address. So yours could be, because all Gmail addresses are free, give it an email address of whatever you want to call it, maybe your shop name or address, or maybe your shop has a number, and whatever it might be, and then just at gmail.com. That way, when I send an email from here, I don't have to worry about receiving emails or reading them or anything like that. All I want to do is send an email, and it would be this quick to send an email. So this is the report that we just did, this DTC scan report. I'm going to hit the share button. Right? It's going to open a menu at the bottom of the screen. I'm going to tell it I want to use Gmail. It opens my Gmail. Right? It's already set to who I want it to go to. Right, and you can have yours set that way too. And then at the top right corner, I'm going to hit the little arrow head-looking thing next to the paperclip, and it just sent my report. So 3 taps, and I could send that report. So if I had management or something that for some reason wanted to see that report, or they want to see the scans that I do, I can do that, and then my report is set. So from that point, I'm going to go back again. That was saved reports. Now I can go to web browser. So remember too that we're sitting behind the wheel, right? You can do anything that you want to do behind the wheel. You don't have to go anywhere for information. You can do anything you want to do on the web. Go out to the web browser. You can do anything from here that you want to do. There's all of the OEM websites are kind of already programmed in there. If I wanted to just do Google and I wanted to Google something, I can do that. So just know that it's your tool. It's designed for you to be able to do anything that you want, so you don't have to go anywhere else for information. Right? So I told you that I would. I want to show you a little more about True Speed. Or just to show you what was in True Speed, so you could see some of that information that's in there. So I'm going to go up the top right corner of the screen, and there's 4 buttons there. One of them's a little car, one's a little house. I'm just going to click on that little house. It's going to take me back to kind of the home screen where when you turn your tool on, this is what it would look like. So I'm going to picture that your tool is setting in your docking station. So if it's sitting in your docking station, and you wanted some sort of information, right? You wanted repair information of some kind. You're going to go get that information from True Speed. So you can see there's a True Speed button there. I'm going to tap on True Speed. Right. It's going to open up that same menu that we looked at before, except here I'm going to be able to select my year, make, and model. in a pick on Ford mood today. I pick on Fords. They're going to pick on a 250. So now when it opens that information up, now you can see that I'm looking at a lot of information, right? It's not just information that is geared towards, it's not just information that is geared towards that trouble code like we were looking at before, right? This information is going to be for this vehicle, but it's all of it. So I just want you to see the information that is available here, just so you know the information that's in your tool, right? So as I go down a couple of the things that like I always say, things that I think are really cool, let's look at wiring diagrams for a minute. So it's the third one down is wiring diagrams. We're going to click on that, and I'm just going to go through here and pick one. I'll pick a busy one. Right? And it gives me all the wiring diagrams, and these wiring diagrams are outstanding. So remember that you have the color wire diagrams in one spot. We have these diagrams in another, right? So these are also factory diagrams, and they're outstanding diagrams. But there's a couple things that are unique here, right? So look at the information that I have on the screen. So there's my diagram. I come down here. If you can see, hopefully your screen, you can see that there's numbers on the screen that are highlighted, or they're blue color, darker blue, right? So a couple things I could do. What they are is hyperlinks. So let's look at this little box right here. I'm going to look at ground locations, and you already tell that being able to look at the grounds really gets me going. So I'm going to tap on G113, 113. Look at the information that comes up on my screen now. Now I'm going to tap one of these, and it actually makes it bigger for me. I'm just pinching the screen. Look, it actually tells me exactly where that ground is located, right? Among lots of other things, but I mean, right now, this is the one I tapped on, was this G113. That's the one it's showing me right now. Right? That is just outstanding. But let's say, and I'm just tapping the back button, let's say I want to know what that connector looks like. So I can tap on connector, actually gives me the connector, and again, gives me the darn part number of that connector. So let's say I had one that got destroyed, it got hot, melted, I mean, whatever. Actually gives me the part number of the darn thing. And down here it even tells me what all of the pins are in that connector and what they do, where they are, and then all the way over to the right, that is the wire connector. So that is the part number for the connector that's inside that plug. So I don't know if any of you have ever tried to look for information like that before, but to have it, in my tool like that is just, to me, it's crazy. And all of the diagrams are that way. Right. So, and again, connector view splices. I mean, there's a splice button. So there's where splices are. If I want to look at where that splice is that I just tapped on, that's where the wires are joined together. I mean, to me, it just is crazy that I can look at that. Okay, the next one I really like is component location. So I'm just going to click on a component, and whatever that component might be, whatever I tapped on, that's a speaker. It tell me where the speaker's at. Right? But there's lots of other things here too. If you look here, it actually says that there's 858 other locations for me to look at. So you can find any location you want, and then there's my locations. There's the anti-lock brake module. Where it's at. Just pinching the screen to blow that up. That is just, I can't imagine being able to have that information at my fingertips. And again, while I'm sitting behind the wheel, right? So far I don't have to go anywhere. I'm sitting behind the wheel. So now I want to tap on procedures because I just want you to see the information that is under there. And there is lots and lots of information here. Any ADS function, so any of the cameras or anything that you might need to reset, your tool is capable of doing all of the dynamic ADS calibrations out there. So any of the cameras or any of those type things that can be calibrated dynamically in any of the vehicles that you guys work on, your tool is capable of doing all of those. So all of the ADS functions are here. But just for the sake of time, I just wanted to show you what Other guys tell me is so cool about what they like so much about the program, among a bunch of other things, but they always say that their program that they're using doesn't have this information. There's one here that says body and frame. I always like to point that out because this is exactly what it sounds like. It's body and frame type information. So, you know, door lock cylinders, how to put them in, you know, window circuits, control switches. I mean, taking that kind of stuff apart. Anything on the truck or on the vehicle, whatever it is you might be working on. You're not going to be replacing floor panels, I would imagine. You know, had to take the door off, how to get up. I mean, any of that kind of stuff. Bumpers, you know, brackets, that kind of stuff. So as cool as that one is, and there's another one that guys really, really like, and it's this one here, and it's called Interior Panel Replacement and Procedures. And this is anything that has to do with the interior of the car, whatever that might be. You know, taking seats apart, floor console, what it takes to get the console out, where the hidden screws and stuff are. You can see all that information. All this information is here. I mean, it's just crazy to think that you have all of that right at your fingertips. There's things like transmission, you know, different things with the transmission. If you wanted to, I mean, transmission repair, you know, valve bodies. I mean, all that kind of, you know, inside the transmission. Right, all that. So just so you see what is here, just want you to know what's here. You know, transfer case information, replacing seals. I mean, all that kind of stuff. Inside the transmission, you know, there's overhaul. You need to overhaul it. Just scroll through fast. I mean, what it looks like inside if you got it apart. For the innards. There goes, we're getting there. So now we're taking it apart. So just so you see, I want you to see the information that's in True Speed Repair as well. Again, I said you didn't have to go anywhere to get information. Hopefully you see from all the things that we're looking at that is 100% the truth. You don't have to go anywhere else to get any information. It is all in your tool. Right? And again, there's lots of other information. I mean, I could go on for a long time, but now you see what's in there. You guys can go look at it and look at it yourself. You know, harnesses, grounds, I mean, all those things like we talked about. Is there security, lighting, all right? So exhaust procedures, that kind of stuff. So just so you see the information that is there, and it's not, you don't have to be hooked to a vehicle to be able to go see it. You can look at that information anytime you choose to. So with all of that, that is the scan tool in itself. I'm going to show you a couple more things, and then if you have any questions, I want to answer any questions that you guys may have. So hopefully you can see my screen. We get to the show you my screen, or trying to show you my screen. Now, do you have any questions at this point? You can either unmute yourself and ask them while I'm trying to get my screen to show here like I want. Or, you know, if you had, or you can put them in the chat. This is, when you're looking at my screen now, this is just a link, and I will get all the information to you guys. I've sent this information to my managers, and then my managers will send it to yours, and hopefully it disseminates its way down to you guys. But this is just a list of the websites that I use on a daily basis. I am the troubleshooter, and I do handle many phone calls throughout the day from things that guys are working on. These are all of the websites that I use that are free, that don't require anything from you other than you to join them. So they're free. They never email you. They never solicit. They never do anything like that. They're just totally free. And I use every single one of these at different times for information. My favorites are kind of at the top, the one that says Diagnostic Network. That is my favorite one out there. The information that's there, that's technicians from all over the planet. And I could tell you a bunch of stories about that. But that is outstanding information there. My next one down that I use on almost a daily basis is the one in the middle, NASTF. That's NASTF. If you've never been to that site, you should go there. You would blow your mind the information that's there. That's free. That's also the site that I use if I'm doing any J2534 programming or reprogramming. That's the site that I use. And then all the rest of them are great. And this one down at the bottom, startmycar.com. If you've never looked at that one, it would the information that's out there that you can get for free would blow your mind. Startmycar.com is outstanding for repair data, users manuals, factory users manuals, wiring diagrams, fuse box, breakdowns, that kind of stuff. The information there is just, it's crazy. The information that is available to us. I think we need to use all the information we can get our hands on. So, that being said, lastly, I got asked in some of the other classes if there was any way to display your scan tool on a separate monitor. If you had the tool in a work cart, something like that, you definitely can display it on a monitor. This might be hard to read, but you guys will have this document. The device at the top plugs into the charging port that's in the top of the scan tool. There's a little charge port there that charges the tool if it wasn't in the dock. And then you plug that device into that, and then you can plug an HDMI cord into that device and plug it into a monitor or TV or something like that, and it works great. I use it a lot. The only problem with that is that now you're tethered to whatever you're plugging it into because it would be wired directly to it. Works great, but you would be tethered to it. The device at the bottom is what's called a Chromecast by Google, and that's what I use all the time. And I plug that into the TV or the monitor, whatever I'm trying to go to, and my tool will talk to that device wireless, and then I wouldn't have any trouble at that point. It works great, and I use it every day. Whenever I do any presentation, that's the device I use, and it works fine. So either one of those works. Lastly, I want to tell you that this is our tech support phone number. If you have any questions whatsoever, any technical question, you're trying to work on a vehicle you're having trouble with, you can't get the tool to do something that you think it should, or something that you thought you saw, whatever your question might be, we have several tech support agents that are here. They're here. They're right in the same building where where the tool is made and designed and engineered, which is done here. And they're waiting for somebody to call. So you can call them anytime you like. If you call them while you're working with your tool, chances are pretty good that they'll log into your tool with you and help you with whatever it is you're trying to accomplish right on the spot. So with that, then lastly, I would like to make sure I thank all of you guys and gals for being here. We appreciate you for sure. We're so happy to be partnered with you all and that you chose our scan tool to use. We're so happy with that. We want you to be as happy as we are. So if there's anything that we can do to make it better, to help you know the tool better, by all means, let someone know, or call our tech support. They're there to help you with whatever issues and questions that you may have. Thank you so much for being here. I know it was an hour and a half of your time. I greatly appreciate you being here. And then if there are any questions that you may have, unmute yourself. By all means, ask. Put them in the chat. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. I appreciate that for the thank you. We are planning some other training that we might do in the same way. We're talking about doing some J2534 flashing training because you have a device that does that. So we're exploring doing that. If your management wants to do that, that will be the next training that we'll do. If that's something you guys think that you would like to see, by all means, tell your people so they can pass it on, and we will be happy to continue that on. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. If you have no questions or nothing else, I mean, I would say everybody can cut loose. Thanks so much.